funny. I never thought I'd be able to walk into the wrong room on a cyber thing. Welcome to Reformgelical, where the Reformed and Evangelicals meet. My name is Matt Williams. I'm co-hosted by
You went silent.
I went silent?
Little button. All of a sudden, I can't hear you.
Can you not hear me now?
Oh, wait. It's me. How'd this happen?
You're messing up the intro, man.
I don't know, man. Listen, I know we're live, but for some reason, I didn't touch a single button, and I muted my stuff. I don't know what happened.
Oh, God, it's the CCP / Big Eva.
The intro is always a disaster anyway. So.
That is true. If we even get to it, sometimes I just forget to even do it.
That's right.
But I did want to say thank you to all the people that are supporting us on Patreon, patreon.com/reformgelical. Yeah. You guys are great. You help us support the show and pay for our costs. So I really appreciate that. And all those who do the one-time super chat donations. Oh, yeah. You guys are fantastic. So I was asking you in my eloquent intro, how you doing? You doing good?
I'm doing okay. It was a very snowy day here. It snowed like 1.5 feet. My church, the city where my church is in Vermont, got 44 inches of snow.
What? Is that normal? 44 inches?
Normal.
That's a lot.
That is not normal. That is a lot.
Gosh, you need to drive some SUVs around to get some global warming.
Yeah, I need some global warming. That's very true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I was meeting with some of the people at my church, and we were talking about the show. And I had to explain to them what Big Eva was. And it's funny, you take for granted some of these things.
Yes.
You just think everyone knows what that is, but at this point,
yeah, no, it's true. And even to this day, like some people will find one of my videos on YouTube and be like, "Who's Eva? Why do you hate her so much?" And
why do you call her big?
Why you call her fat, man? You shouldn't call a girl fat.
It's not very Christian-like at all. Christopher from Pakistan. Hello, brother.
Oh,
welcome.
amazing.
Yes, if you guys want to participate in the show, have any questions for us or comment on anything we're talking about, if you disagree or whatever, feel free to put it in the chat. We see them all. If you missed the show live, whether we do 7:30 typically, Thursdays Eastern time, you can watch it on all the podcast. Where do you watch? Wherever you listen to podcasts. That's how you say it. So, yeah, there we go. Man, what a week.
Oh, man.
What a week. I see you got the Christmas
decorations. I don't even understand what happened. Are you talking about the snow?
I'm talking about everything. It's just nonstop. I got kicked out of my pediatrician's today. That felt fun. That was good. Have you got kicked out of a place yet for not wearing a mask?
No, I've never been kicked out yet. And I've only caused a minor scene. Nothing too crazy.
That's good. We walked in and I think it was a nurse. I don't even think it was a doctor. I was like, "Oh, here's some masks for you." I'm like, "Oh, no, thanks. We don't wear them." "Oh, well, we have active COVID." And I'm like, "You have active COVID cases in the office right now?" "No, but we could, and it could linger." I was like, "Well, we could wait outside."
Wait. Stop right there. So your conversation, so they confronted you about the mask, and your conversation went 2 sentences, and they already lied to you once.
Yes. It's a good sign of a doctor. You trust the health advice, right? and then she's.
But no, stop. Let me stop you for a second there. Okay. This is a good object lesson because you can. This is what I call wizardry, right? That person tried to wizard you, and it's you can defeat a wizard so easily. You just go, "Wait, you're telling me you have an active COVID case right now?" Like all you do is ask them a direct question. They're like, "Well, no." And you defeated the wizard. That's it.
Yes, I encourage everyone to try it. It's a wonderful experience. It was a little nerve-wracking at first because I knew there was going to be drama going into it. But
you got to prepare yourself, right?
You got to prepare yourself. We prayed. We sang some worship songs on the way. We felt really in the spirit. But it was funny. And then I just was playing it off like, "Oh, there's an active. Should my kids even be in this building?" And then she was like, "No, it just could, people have been here who've had it. That's why we put people directly in the room." And I'm like, "Oh, great. So we don't need a mask. You're putting us directly into a room." Like, no, typically, what we just tell parents that argue about this, that we cancel their meetings or cancel their appointments. I'm like, "All right, see ya." And we just left. But that was my experience this morning.
Well, so what are you going to do? I mean, do you have like a Rolodex of doctors to talk to that actually don't lie to you and are reasonable?
Yeah, dude. My wife got home. She was so pissed.
I'm sure.
She basically printed out all the pediatricians in our area and called them. Hey, we don't wear masks. Will you kick us out? Will you take us if we don't wear masks? And she called like 30 of them and finally got one lady that we have that we're going to go see.
That's good.
It is good. But well, it's sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was just going to say I was thinking about this and I'm thankful for it because this is really revealing, just like all of this stuff is being revealing to our government. It's really revealing to me about how our doctors handle things. Like you're not looking at the science or you don't believe it. So why would I trust you with the other science things that I don't know about?
Well, so I think I mentioned this on the show before, but my doctor in Vermont, like I kind of don't want to leave him, even though it's a hassle to go to him, because he did my blood, tests and stuff, and he did like my vitals and everything like that. And he says, "Man, you're obviously very healthy." He says, "What are you eating?" And I told him what I was eating, and I was, very low carb, very high fat, and that's against what the science says. And so he told me, and I'll never forget this. He said, he said, "Look at me," and I'm like, "Oh, that's weird. Look at me." He goes, "I have to tell you that that's not the appropriate way to eat. Do you understand what I'm saying?" Like he did like that, like because he basically was like, I'm gotta tell you this because I don't want to get sued,
right?
But keep doing what you're doing. Because obviously it's working. You know what I mean? And so it's like a doctor like that, like that's not actually as hardcore as I would want him to be, but at least he was willing to be straight up with me. It's like, I kind of have to say this, but obviously I don't want to change what you're up to right now. You know what I mean? And that's actually like a little bit of backbone, but even a little bit of backbone in these days is like, it goes a long way. Cause I knew what he was saying.
I'll take it. And the other thing that I was like thinking about, it also reveals that they're not treating patients. They're regurgitating what they hear. Yeah. They're just basically matching like, oh, you have these symptoms. Yeah. This is what they tell me to do. So that's what we're going to do. And there's no personalized care anymore. You've nationalized, quote unquote. Oh, the whoever the doctors look to and they type up on their records to search for remedies and what you suggest. It's like, you're not even personalizing anything like you're saying your doctor did.
M3 Max. No, that's not that Mark Dever. It's a different Mark Dever. Oh. He's asking if that's the 9 Marks guy. No, he would never watch. If he did watch the show, he would never comment.
Yeah, it would definitely be a code name for sure. he would get Joe Carter to assign him an alias from the alleged CIA operations.
Mark Dever's giving us the sad faces. Sorry about that. I blew your cover.
Oh, that's funny. There's a question. Do you guys believe this is a pandemic? No. I don't at all.
I don't know what the technical term of pandemic is, but if you're going to ask me, I would have said yes. And the reason I would have said yes is I think it's a real disease. It's a real virus, and it really is going around the world. But when you say pandemic, I like there's definitely it means like it's very serious and scary and stuff like that. Like, I don't think that, but I think it's probably technically a pandemic, but I don't think it's like when you see the word pandemic, you instantly think panic and fear and the worst thing ever. I don't think it's that.
So I just looked it up, and this is what I hate. When I go to look something up and then in the definition is a word that I need to look up again. That just happened to me.
Did you go to public school like me? Because that always happens to me.
Yes. I'm going to look this up and sound smart. I'm like, oh, crap, I have to Google 2 things now? I'm done. A pandemic is an epidemic over a wide geographic area and affecting a large proportion of the population.
Thanks a lot for that.
Yeah. All right. What's an epidemic?
An epidemic is an outbreak of disease that spreads quickly and affects many individuals at the same time. A pandemic is a kind of epidemic, one which is spread across a wider geographic range than an epidemic. Okay. So I guess a pandemic basically means that it's a large geographic range. So I guess the whole world would qualify. Yeah. And then a disease that spreads quickly and affects a lot of people. So I guess that's what I'm saying. Technically, it probably is a pandemic.
All right, I'll retract it. It's a pandemic, but then so is flu season every year.
Well, no, but I think literally flu season every year is a pandemic.
Oh, really? Like they call it that?
No. Well, scientists do, but nobody else does.
Yeah. The people that aren't ruining our lives don't normally do that.
Right. Exactly. No, I really do think, listen, I'm not a doctor. Let me say that. But I'm pretty sure that in the beginning of this craziness, I heard somebody say, well, yeah, we have a pandemic every year. It's different influenza goes around the world every year. Mm-hmm. And it's like, yeah, but obviously you don't call it that because the connotation for pandemic is, the Black Plague.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I know. So, and apparently the flu's gone. I've been looking at certain states and like the flu cases are in the single digits right now. So,
well, I mean, there's no more flu pandemic. So there you go.
Calvin says, I hear that California is negative hospital capacity in some places, so they're not doing great. Negative? So is that negative average capacity?
I don't know.
That sounds terrible.
Cal's a computer programmer, so he can give us the data.
Yeah, can you just type out the algorithm for that so I can understand it, please, Cal?
I'm not going to understand it. So.
Yeah. So we could Google it 3 times to get all the good definitions.
Yes, Calvin, please write us an algorithm that we have to Google a million times and still won't understand.
To make this a good, hard-hitting show. Greg says, how should Christian owners respond to government shutdowns when they are losing their business and livelihood? Does Romans 13 come into play? Do they just obey the executive orders? I'm gonna answer second, so I don't have to retract anything.
Okay, so here's what I'll say about this. So the government tells you to shut down because of the pandemic. So I think that shutting down and then not shutting down are completely legitimate options for Christians. So the government does not have the authority to shut down your business for a fake pandemic. I'm not going to say that. A real pandemic that's not that serious. A Christian would be completely within their Christian liberty to keep their business open if they saw fit. I could see good reasons to not have it open. For example, like in my town, if you opened your restaurant for like normal seating and stuff like that, it would be pointless because everyone in my town is following the orders and they're not going to the restaurant anyway. So like a legitimate option would be like, well, I'm just going to close down because I'm not going to like open it up, fire up all the grills and stuff and waste money if nobody's going to come anyway. But if people were willing to come and, you live in the city or something, people would come, be totally within your rights. It would not be a violation of Romans 13 to stay open. That's what I'm going to say. Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. And shutting down for me would be an operational cost analysis, not a submission to government. And I think we've submitted way too much to government in areas that they have no authority for us to submit to.
Yeah. And somebody today asked me about what are God-given rights, like how do you determine them from the Bible? And what I said was basically kind of what we say on this show. It's not, you're not going to find the word rights too often in the Bible. There's a couple things that talk about rights, conjugal rights, the right to be called the child of God. That's about it. There's like a couple places that talk about rights. But where I get them is the sphere sovereignty stuff. So anything that God doesn't give the government authority over or your pastor authority over, you have authority over. That's how it is. As an individual, as a man, you have authority over the areas of your life that God hasn't given to the government or the church. So it's really just that simple. So when the government says, well, shut down your business, it's too dangerous. Well, you can just take your God-given right and say no, because God doesn't give that authority to the government.
Absolutely. And I'll just put this in the comment section and I'll probably put it in the show notes, but I've said it before and I'll say it again. You can, I got a bunch of errors. So if those of you are watching in places that don't see this link, you can
I see it. Yeah.
Check out the show. Two Treatises of Government by John Locke. And it is like almost systematic theology for government specifically. I mean, chapter 3, Adam's title to sovereignty by creation, Adam's title to sovereignty by donation. And he goes through and this whole thing is literally him taking passages of the Bible and saying, therefore the government can and can't do this. People don't like reading it today because chapter 9 is on slavery. And since he uses the Bible, he doesn't really condemn it. And that's, taboo.
Whoa. That's cancelable. Boom.
I know. Just like the Bible. Just like the Bible is cancelable. In fact, did you hear that Democrat politicians wrote a letter to Joe Biden to do that very thing?
To do what very thing?
To persecute conservative Christians and Trump voters.
Whoa. That's not possible because I heard that the Democratic Party, besides abortion, they're a little bit off there, is like the most loving party ever. That's impossible.
Yeah, I know, right? And I mean, Big Eva said it's just as good of a Christian vote. There should be no guilt.
Yeah, no guilt.
There should be no guilt. Yeah, a group backed by congressional Democrats touting a secular America, quote unquote, has sent a 28-page document to Biden transition team advising him to strip First Amendment rights from Christians who advocate traditional biblical positions on the sanctity of life, marriage, education, and the nuclear family. Thanks, Big Eva.
They seem like nice people.
Man, is there anything that we should listen to Big Eva about?
No, not even one thing.
Oh my goodness. We should write a book about that.
We should. How many things that you can trust Big Eva or listen to Big Eva
reasons
about?
to listen to Big Eva or something
Probably
like that.
be a big tome, maybe like this, like Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Yeah. An Elvish or something. That would be great. Can you guys address Joel Osteen taking $4.4 million in COVID release? Not only Joel Osteen, but our great friends at the Gospel Coalition as well.
Wait. Okay, hold on a second. Joel Osteen took $4.4 million?
Yeah, he's a baller, baby.
Wow, man. How many employees did he have? Did anyone check that out?
He saved himself, his wife, his kids.
I got 3 employees. Yeah. We're all living our best life. Yeah, I saw this. So $4.4 million, my goodness. Well, that's not surprising. I mean, he's not that doctrinally sound, but definitely not a conservative evangelical would never do that. Definitely.
Definitely not. Like the Gospel Coalition. They took 350,000 to $1 million. It's unspecified.
I didn't understand. What I didn't understand is I kind of figured they took a bailout, but what I didn't understand is why were they listed as a software publisher?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. That was weird to me. That must be a government oversight because that didn't make any sense. Like they're publishers and they use software, but they're not a software publisher. Maybe that's how they game the system, Yeah, but yeah, maybe. 13, was it 18 employees that they had?
Yeah, 18 employees.
And they took between 350 and $1 million.
Yeah. I'm not going to do that math, but
they had to, man. Listen, I'm not going to come down too hard on them because they realized that the world needed their hot takes for the next year, and if they needed that relief because if who's going to give us the hot takes if they weren't?
Yeah, that's right.
Like where were we going to learn that it was loving your neighbor to take the vaccine and to cover your face with a mask? Like where would we have heard that if not for Gospel Coalition?
That's right, and to continue to get Chinese food. My favorite article.
That was the RLC, which also took money, I believe.
You're right. And George Soros money. I'm not going to let them forget that.
Cal says Gospel Coalition is too big to fail. Yeah, it is. I mean, that critical for the church. Let's just be honest about that.
And critical for our show content. Let's be honest. I'm not even actually that mad that they took it.
I would have made a lot less money had it not been for the Gospel Coalition.
Where would we go? Oh my gosh. Eureka said that her church did it and didn't tell us. One of the reasons they're leaving.
Yeah, that's
that's tough, man.
Listen. I'm not going to come down too hard on the church taking a loan. I don't think that they should, especially a church. Like maybe Gospel Coalition, fine. Like you're not an actual church. You need to do it. Do what you got to do. I wouldn't do it as if I was in charge of it. I wouldn't have done it. Mm-hmm. But a church, okay, if you're going to do it, that has to be like so out in the open. It's ridiculous. Like it has to be like, guys, we're considering this. Maybe we can take a love offering so we don't have to do this. Like everyone should have known up front for sure. Right. I'm an easygoing guy. Like I'm not trying to come down hard on people, but the secret, if that was really a secret, Eureka, yikes.
I know. Rough. And it just goes, you got to ask what else is secretive. That's kind of a big deal.
Listen to this. They said their finances were fine. So they're not saying why they took the loan. What is that?
It's just like last week, man. It's state-run churches. I mean, that you are who your investors are. They're the ones who control you.
Didn't Grace Community start the process of doing that, and then when they saw the strings attached, they said no way?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's right.
It might not have been Grace Community, but I remember someone that I like said that they were considering it, and then they decided not to.
Yeah, I don't remember if it was the church specifically or was Grace to You, the ministry. I don't remember.
It might have been Grace to You, yeah.
But then it came out that there was going to be certain guidelines and restrictions, or I forgot, parameters around it of repainting it and stuff and penalties, and that wasn't even written yet, and people were taking it.
Yeah,
so, yeah, it was crazy.
Jason said it was Grace, and they took it, and then they gave it right back. Yeah.
Interesting.
Makes sense. And listen, I'm serious though. Like I'm a big softie. You know, I'm a squish. So like, I'm not going to come down too hard on a church doing it. Mm-hmm. Even if I wouldn't do it myself as a church, but the secretiveness, that's a no-go. No way. You know what I mean? No way.
Yeah, totally. I totally agree with that. I think that's fair. I mean, it's just, honestly, if you're okay with any government loan, what's different about this loan?
Right.
So
right.
I don't know. Okay, somebody said y'all should talk about the way conservative media has been hyping the miracle vaccine to show a Trump victory. But what if the untested vax is a dangerous disaster?
Yeah.
To that, I say I haven't hyped the vaccine. We've talked about not taking it and not.
No, but I think some have though. He or she. I don't see who wrote that, but some definitely. Like the official, media has not like the alt media and stuff like that, but like Fox News and like that kind of thing definitely has. But honestly, like this is, I don't even really care so much about that. I think that's kind of just what official people do. Like any official media source is going to be like, oh, the vaccine's the greatest thing ever.
Yeah.
But that is actually interesting in another way, because we keep hearing about this Trumpism stuff and about how everyone's committing idolatry with Trump and like they follow him blindly. He can do no wrong and they worship him as if he's deity. And the thing is, though, that like a lot of the most aggressive, Trump supporters are like, there's no way I'm getting that vaccine. No, not a shot. And it's like, okay, so which is it? Are we evil for not taking the vaccine and hating our neighbor, or are we idolizing Trump and doing anything he says blindly? Like, which is it?
True.
I honestly don't get it.
That's such a good point.
It's such a good point, because that destroys the entire narrative. Nobody's being like, I normally wouldn't like a vaccine that was experimental and probably going to give me Bell's palsy, but Trump said it was good, so I'm going to get it. In fact, if everyone that I know that really likes Trump is like, what's he doing with this vaccine stuff? This is like, what's the deal with that? Why is he pushing this so much? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's crazy. And I agree. That's one of the downsides of Trump, because he does stuff like that. And that's not the only thing that he's done that a lot of people have disagreed with. That's one of them, though.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. And so Andrew follows up and says it's all over Fox, Newsmax, OAN.
Yeah.
I don't listen to those. I'm not going to try to defend them. If you don't like their stuff, do what I do and just not watch them.
Yeah. No. And Andrew's right. That's because when he said that, that's exactly, Fox News is definitely hyping it. But to me, that's not so much conservative as it is like that's mainstream. That's the mainstream attitude. The vaccine's the greatest thing ever, and that's just it. And if you don't believe that, then you're a conspiracy theorist psychopath. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if it's really conservative media is the issue there. It's really just official media. Yeah.
And anyone that likes to see the stock market go up, I'll tell you that. But there's been people getting it that have been having adverse effects. I think already 2 of the nurses have had crazy reactions to it. But the thing that makes me super suspicious about this whole thing is that the military has it as an optional thing, that you don't have to take it. And that's really unusual. Usually the military gets every vaccine under the sun. Right.
Because
this one's
I get it.
Optional.
That is interesting. I just assumed that the military would insist.
Yeah.
Because they always do on that kind of
stuff. Always.
Yeah.
My buddy, he had to take one, had no choice about it. And one of the side effects of it was canker sores. And now he gets canker sores all the time because they made him take the vaccine. Like, they don't care about side effects. You're just getting it all.
Man, this really sucks. Jeff is saying he works for a big IT company, and he's got a government customer who's going to require proof of vaccine for his staff to work on site. Oof. Man, dude, that's ridiculous. This whole like insisting on it is so freaking weird, in my opinion. I'm not anti-vaxxer, but there is no way that I'm going to do it if you're insisting on it, and it's so experimental. It's just so experimental, and not even just insisting on it in the areas that you control, like attempting to insist on it just in general.
Yeah.
I don't like that. That makes me very suspicious, and it makes me not want to do it. I'm a little bit of a contrarian. I get it, but like,
right.
But no, I don't think you have my best interest in mind. So no,
especially when it doesn't make sense. If it's so good, and it's so effective, then you shouldn't mandate it, because if people are really concerned about it, they'll take the vaccine. They'll be fine.
Right. We'll just wait and see.
Yeah, we'll just wait and see. But no, it's weird.
But the thing is, like, too, I think like they have to, like, they feel like they have to insist on it, because I think their whole story of it being like the most deadly pandemic is falling apart more and more every day. Yes, people are dying. Yes, people are getting sick as well. Nobody denies that. But we realize that, okay, well, probably going to survive. And, last year during flu season, probably would have survived that too. And so I didn't necessarily need a vaccine then. Why do I need one now? And it's like, so we're all kind of blasé about it. So it's like, I'm not really that interested in that, because, why get it if it's really not necessary? I don't take an aspirin when it's not necessary. Sometimes I'll have a headache and I'll decide, should I take an aspirin or not? It's not that bad. I'm not going to.
Right.
Even though it's available.
Yeah.
Like, right. So it's like, in order to get us to do it, they have to insist on it, because a lot of people are just like, I guess I'll take my chances with COVID. You know what I mean? Like,
right. And it's getting so crazy too. I follow this guy, Skeptic something. I forgot what it was. It's on Twitter. It's actually a really good account. I think he's actually even a liberal atheist guy, but he's been tracking just the data of it and total deaths and all that stuff. And from what I remember, the chart was either for the nation or for specific state that he's in. But last month, total deaths year over year actually went down.
Yeah, you mentioned that to me. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh man.
It's just so silly. Like, the data doesn't even make sense. It doesn't even make sense.
It's so crazy. We always talk about this, but it's almost like people didn't realize that people could die last year. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Like, I know people die, and I know that they die of various reasons. And I don't want to get sick. I never want to get sick, even when it's just a cold. I don't want to get sick. But like, and I know people. So early in the year, I didn't know anybody that had it. Now I do know people who've had it. My brother's had it. A friend from Vermont has had it. My pastor's family members have had it. And, it's been serious for people that were old. And quite frankly, people that were on their way out anyway. They were probably going to die this year anyway. Right. And then this took them out. But the thing is, when you're old, something's going to take you out eventually. You know what I mean? That's just how it is. That's life. And it's not, I don't want to make light of it, but it's just truth.
Right. Yeah.
And so I don't know. It's just, so they have to push this. And I'm just thinking to myself, why is this the one they push? Nobody pushed making a vaccine for the latest, corona or cold epidemic in a various town. Oh yeah, because the cold doesn't shut down economies. Yeah, well, this didn't have to shut down the economies either. Yeah,
this did not shut down the economy. The government response shut down the economy. That's the difference. We can't let that get lost in the semantical verbiage. The virus didn't do anything to us.
Right. You're right. The virus didn't do anything. Right. You're exactly right.
Yep. 100%.
Anyway,
Josh, you sent a link. I can't see it and I can't click on it through the chat.
He sent the link to the Joe Carter article about Kamala Harris, like the 10 things you need to know about Kamala Harris.
Is it like super positive and uplifting about her?
It's mostly positive, and it really doesn't. I mean, there's some negatives, of course, but it really doesn't get into the full orbed awesomeness of who she is. If you know what I mean.
Yeah, of course.
Doesn't get into the fact that, she slept her way to the top kind of thing, all that kind of stuff. Doesn't really get into it. Doesn't get into I'm pretty sure it doesn't get into the, she, in the primaries believed that Biden was a sexual assaultist and now is working with him. Oops.
Yeah, I forgot what you posted. You posted something this morning, and I said something about the executive order that Trump has where he could basically confiscate everyone's assets, company, individual who participated in any foreign interference in election stuff. And I would just really like to see him just take all of their stuff, all their servers, hardware, and just never hear from them again. It would be great.
Just like KGB style, just seize it all.
Just take it. Yeah, if you took any money from George Soros, you took any money from the Chinese Communist Party, and you have been shilling for the Democrats, just take it. Done. Our lives would be so much better.
You just want a tyrant.
I do. I want a tyrant right now.
For the right cause.
Exactly. Well, this is how I see it. We're going to get a tyrant one way or the other. Either it's going to be probably temporary with Trump, or the left's just going to take it and run. I mean,
Yeah.
we just literally talked about them putting us Christians and Trump voters on a list to, I don't know, re-educate us, to take away our rights. I mean, we're getting a tyrant.
That's a good point. You might as well have a funny tyrant that is on your side somewhat.
No, I honestly do not think Trump is a tyrant at all, and
I don't either.
I honestly would trust him if he does take some kind of like insurrection act, martial law role or move to.
You would back that, huh?
I would back it at this point. I think the Supreme Court has failed us. I think the state legislatures have failed us. I think there's plenty of evidence to support that there was fraud. It wasn't a fair election. I would support it, but my only point is I would trust him more with that power than Joe Biden or anyone on the left.
Obviously.
Yeah, I think Trump would give it back. Just like kind of like George Washington stepped down after 8 years. I really don't see Trump being that person that they're characterizing him as.
No, I agree with that. With that.
Okay, so here is a question we haven't answered or talked about before. Doctrinal watchdog, do you think the mark of the beast is literal, or do you take the view that it's thinking what God thinks and doing what God wants us to do? I don't understand the last part.
So he's just asking if the mark of the beast is literal or if it's figurative.
Yeah, and then he says, I assume you and AD might disagree because he's a Presbyterian. But I think that just has to do with me being pre-mill and post-mill, not Presby versus Baptist.
Well, I mean, yeah, but yeah, you're probably right about that. Well, I think it was probably like something literal, but it was back in the early century. So like before, what year would it be? It would have been, but in the first century, something in the first century.
Mm-hmm. Something in the first century. I think that it could be literally figurative. I don't think it's going to say like mark of the beast on the forehead.
Right.
I think it may very well be a chip or something like that, possibly. But we'll see. I don't know.
Yeah, you're gonna get the chip. You're gonna get the maybe it's the coronavirus vaccine.
Maybe it is the coronavirus. Maybe it's embedded in your DNA. Like the RNA vaccines where it restructures.
Right now, when those chips come out, because they're definitely going to put out some chips where you can like get scanned so they know like your medical history and stuff. That's definitely going to happen at some point. I'm definitely not getting that. No way.
Yeah.
Get away from me with that chip stuff.
That's like even if you hedge, like if you were post-mill and you think that's something that happened back in the day, like just play it safe and don't get it anyways.
This might be the mark.
This might be just even if it's 1% that you might be wrong, just don't get it. See a bunch of people cutting it out. It's like, I'm pre-mill now.
Matt, we're talking about the mark of the beast. Was the mark literal or not?
Was it literal or not?
It's my brother.
Yeah. So here's a Presby thing for you. So as you know, and just for everyone else who's watching, I go to a Presbyterian Reformed church because they didn't close. And I really like the pastor, CREC church. I can trust them in the fight, all this stuff. And we were doing communion and we were passing it. And when my son asked for communion and I told him no, and something about that really got to me, AD. It really shook me.
The CREC is getting to you. That's what I'm saying. The CREC is getting to you.
Oh my gosh. It really just did not sit well with me. And, I honestly, I'm squish on baptism, on infant baptism or not, but just the idea, and I guess from a Baptist perspective, it makes sense to me that infant baptism and communion for kids goes hand in hand. But from what I was talking with Gabe about, apparently some Presbyterians don't think that for some reason. Is that true?
No. Yeah. I mean, official Presbyterians don't. So you're talking about paedo communion, right?
Yeah. I mean, because my kid, he's like around 2, and I was telling him, no, you can't have it. And, he was upset about it. But just the fact of I am telling him, no, you can't participate in something that God's commanded as I'm trying to disciple my kid into doing what God's commanded.
Well, that's the primary argument that it should go hand in hand. That's a lot of the CREC people believe that. But like Westminster Confession Presbys don't believe that.
Okay. So
because they think you need to be able to discern the body.
Yeah. My pastor is watching right now, Kyle, and he just did a smiley face. I shouldn't have admitted that. Now I'm not going to hear the end of it.
What did you admit? Hold on. What did you admit?
What? No, that I was just feeling bad about not giving my kid communion.
Kyle, good work. So the first thing I said to him when he told me about this was that it's not your son that's getting to you. That's the CREC that's getting to you.
But so that's something I need to pray about. But man, it's you have your kid, and at least for me as a Baptist, I don't think really there's a strong argument for it biblically, obviously, because I'm a Baptist. And I don't really like that. I'm not comfortable with the argument for it, but I'm also really not comfortable with like keeping my kid from pushing him towards Christ. Like everything that we should be doing raising our kids should be pushing them towards Christ and discipling him, telling him no. I don't know. It's a really interesting conundrum I'm in.
Oh, thought I'd share that with the world. Conundrum.
Yeah, Dever says I'm in hot water. I really hope it's not that Mark Dever. Oh boy! All right, what else? Talked about the Christians are going to be arrested under Joe Biden. We got the CRC money. I don't know, man. It's a crazy world we live in. California church displays nativity scene that incorporates Black Lives Matter. I wonder if any Big Eva is going to push back on that. I don't know.
Black Lives Matter nativity scene?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it certainly seems to me to be appropriate. I mean, racial reconciliation is a primary gospel issue. So why wouldn't it be part of the nativity?
Yeah, I don't know. It just makes sense altogether. Oh my gosh.
What else you got here? So we got we had something here that I wanted to mention. What was it?
What about your anti-brassers? You brought that up. Moses had to deal with the anti-brassers who refused to look at the brazen serpent in the wilderness.
The brazen serpent. And then the next day, Duquan was saying how it's the vaccine is like the period in between the advents because it's all ready but not yet. Just like the vaccine, it's here to save us, but not yet. There's still death everywhere. So it was the finishing blow, but it takes time to work its way out, kind of like the second advent of Christ. And then, of course, like the first advent, many rejected Christ, just like this advent, when many will reject the life-saving vaccine.
Oh my gosh. There's seriously no end to any of this. It's so funny, like with the masks, with the social justice stuff. It's like everyone just thinks it's just going to be this, and then that it's going to be over. We're going to give them what they want. They'll be cool. None of this is going to stop. It's just going to continue and continue and continue.
So obviously the Herschel York one was a joke. I could see that it was a joke, but it's like, it's a pretty ridiculous and borderline idolatrous joke. You know what I mean? Like, and frankly, we understand that many people do treat the vaccine as if it's some kind of savior of some kind. And it's just a weird joke to make, especially when it's like the very thing that in the beginning of the book of John, Jesus mentions is about him. Mm-hmm. So he's going to be lifted up like the serpent in the wilderness. It's like, yeah, just like the vaccine, the and it's a stupid comparison in almost every way because okay, when they were looking at the serpent, yeah, they were going to die. Like it wasn't like they had a sickness that like may or may not have killed them. Like, no, they were going to die. Mm-hmm. It was because of their faithlessness. And so like, it's not at all comparable to coronavirus, which you're almost guaranteed not to die if you get. It's just so weird. It's just such a weird joke. And I don't understand it. Maybe they're trolling. Maybe they're like trying to get reactions. I don't know, because that's what I do. Maybe they're doing what I do.
They're trying anything they can to get engagement. Even if it is getting ratioed.
Right. Well, like that's the guy who did that picture where he was washing the feet of of the critical race theory guy.
I just saw the picture. I didn't see any context.
You know what I'm talking about. Colonel Sanders washing the critical race theory's foot. And and so I guess that didn't get enough engagement. So he had to tell a stupid joke about the vaccine.
Oh my gosh. You know what's funny is like I'm starting to hear people say that the vaccine doesn't mean that you can't social distance and stop wearing a mask. Do people care?
Yeah, it means it's like you get the 2 doses, whatever, But that definitely doesn't mean you can stop social distancing. Definitely doesn't mean you can stop wearing the mask. Like, you have to still do it.
Doesn't that just send off a ton of red flags for people that really it's not about the illness anymore?
Yeah. And well, so I heard some people saying, like, well, you gotta do it because we don't know if you can spread the disease after you get the vaccine. So, like, I remember thinking to myself when I saw that, I don't know who said this. Maybe it wasn't a real person who doesn't know what the heck they're talking about. But, like, if that's true, and we don't even know if you can spread the disease after you get the vaccine, then how do we know anything about the vaccine? Mm-hmm. We don't even know that.
Right. Yeah. No, I've actually heard that too, that your body could carry it, but the vaccine helps you fight it, I guess, and has the antibodies for it. And so you could still carry it, but you're not going to have the effects of it.
Right. And that's my point. It's like, wait, if we don't know if it does that or not, and that's like a very quick reaction. So we should know like what happens in the first few weeks after getting the vaccine. Then how do we even pretend to know what's going to happen in a year or 2 years?
Right.
It doesn't make any sense.
And isn't that something you could pretty easily test? Like, give 2 people a vaccine, give someone the actual virus, and then if the other person gets it, then they can spread or not. I mean, that seems like a pretty straightforward test that you could do somehow. But nope, they don't want to do it because it's not about the virus.
We got Bill Gates, and this is something that many people have noticed. This is not unique with me, but it's like Bill Gates is like, well, I don't know if we can return to normal for 18 months and just got to hunker down, and it's like easy for you to say. I mean, you don't have to work. You know what I mean? You don't have to, you have multiple mansions probably. Like it's easy for you to say. Lots of people out here are working at restaurants and stuff like that, and they don't have a job. Uh-huh. So like, no, we can't just take 18 months to return back to normal. That might be fine for you, but it's not fine for anyone that's operating in reality.
Yeah, I know. Serious. Bill Gates lecturing us about sickness and illnesses and viruses is like me lecturing Presbyterians on how to conduct their presbyteries. It just makes no sense whatsoever.
No, man, I don't know.
All right, someone is asking, what do you think about Rushdoony, good or bad? I have never read a book about Rushdoony. I'm sure you have.
Yeah, I love Rushdoony.
That's a question for you.
I think he's very good. I think Rushdoony was a genius. He's a ridiculous intellect. I think this guy read like a book a week, or a book a day rather, for like years, and he wrote a ton of stuff. And what happens when you write a ton of stuff is that you're going to get a lot of things wrong because you just write so often. Mm-hmm. But his approach to the law of God is super helpful in many, many ways. He doesn't get everything right. And not all of his ideology was right. Not all of his theology was right. But if you ever think to yourself, what does that law mean? Pick up his book, Biblical Institutes of Biblical Law. And in the back, there's a scripture reference, and almost any verse you could imagine, he references multiple times in the book. And even if you don't end up completely agreeing, it will help you understand the law. It'll help you understand it. And he was a genius, in my opinion. You can't just read his book and be like, well, I'm just going to believe everything in this book, because this doesn't work that way with anybody.
Right.
The things you're going to hear about Rushdoony, just so you know, when you start delving in, people are going to, if you buy this book and you show your pastor, he's going to get really worried. And he's going to be like, hold on, did you know he was a Holocaust denier? Did you know he was a Holocaust? Did you know he was against interracial marriage? Mm-hmm. And so there's some truth to both of those statements, but not completely. So you should understand that he didn't think interracial marriage was a good idea, but he recognized that the Bible did not disallow it. And he actually did interracial marriages himself. Because he knew that he couldn't disallow what the Bible didn't disallow. He said that culturally it might not be a good idea. I agree. I think that it's not necessarily a good idea unless you go into it knowing that it's going to be a challenge to combine cultures. It's not really about race so much as it is about cultures. If I were to marry a Puerto Rican from Puerto Rico, that would be stupid to do unless I was ready to go into it knowing that we're going to have some challenges. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I'm Puerto Rican. So like, it's not really so much about race. It's about culture. And he's right about that. You should go into that eyes open kind of thing.
Is that what you're saying he was saying? Or is that what he was saying? That it was more of a cultural thing, not a racial thing? That's what he was saying. Although he did say it was, race was like if I understand him correctly,
he was saying it was about culture, but it expresses itself in the different races differently, kind of thing. Okay, so that's the first thing. Second thing is he did question the severity of the Holocaust. There's just no question about that. But here's the thing: like if you're gonna say, okay, well, he questioned the severity of the Holocaust, therefore I can't read anything he said. I'm sorry, that's just not how an adult does things. You could be like, well, I don't know, don't agree with that. Listen, I don't know anything about the Holocaust except for Anne Frank. I read the Diary of Anne Frank. So I don't know how legitimate his arguments are or not. But the thing is, the book on biblical law isn't about that. So what do I care?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So anyway, so that's what you'll hear. So just be prepared. If you start reading Rushdoony, people are going to be very concerned. Did you know he's a Holocaust? That's just what you got. I think he's really good. Just like anything, you just got to be discerning about it.
Right. Yeah. Just like our podcast, like we put out so many podcasts, we're bound to say things that are wrong. We're bound to say things that we're going to change our mind about too.
Mark. So Mark asked me which Rushdoony books. Okay. So I would recommend 3. First one was the Institutes of Biblical Law. Second one is he did a commentary on Daniel and Revelation that is extremely interesting. And then there's one called The One and the Many. And The One and the Many is about the philosophical, about the Trinity and philosophy and how it interacts and stuff like that. So I would recommend those 3.
All right. There you go. Let's see. Un-Canadian. Does that mean you're American? Thinking of the real issues that matter this week. What were y'all's thoughts on TGC's 20 pieces of goodness in 2020 pop culture?
I can't with those guys. I really can't. I opened that link. Did you read it?
No.
Okay. So I clicked it.
Okay.
I was interested. I was like, Brett McCracken, he's got some good wisdom for me. And it's just like a silly sort of like, these are the 20 things that are good, like baking bread. I baked a lot of bread during the pandemic.
Oh my gosh.
Justin Bieber got married and like stuff like that, like just stupid stuff. And listen.
No wonder they needed a loan.
They needed, yeah, that's right. They needed $1 million because who else would have done this? So I'm on there right now, and I just got a pop-up that says, "Help TGC produce free gospel-centered resources that apply timeless truths to timely issues." And it says, "Partner today." Here's what if anyone from Gospel Coalition is hearing this, if there was a way for me to legally take money from you, that's what I would do. That's how much I'm not going to support your ministry.
It's the opposite.
I want to do the opposite. If you could provide me a pop-up that takes money out, I'll click it.
This is the new kind of downvote for charities. You can pay them or take money from them, depending on how good the content is.
That's good. I like that. So you could pay them, or you could come up with a system that you can give them money or pay someone else to take money.
Increase their tax rate. They get a certain amount of tax write-off. That's actually not a bad idea. We can fund, we'll subsidize by making tax-free charities if they're good. If they're bad or questionable or not worthless, we downclick them.
I'm kind of upset, though, that Brett McCracken didn't mention 80 Robles' YouTube channel on this. I mean, that was one of the best parts of 2020, in my opinion.
Yeah. I agree. In your opinion, it was the best in 2020.
Sports. He said, "You don't know what it's got till it's gone." And, when sports came back, that was really good. Honestly, like when sports came back, in my opinion, it was so sad. It was so pathetic. You go watch these games, and there's like cardboard cutouts in the stands, or nobody in the stands. It's just like It's just so sad to watch a sport these days.
Well, it's quite honestly just like the Gospel Coalition and the RLC. They're pretending like they have an audience, and they don't. That's a perfect example of
it. Actually, everything about sports was horrible this year. Like everyone's wearing the masks. Half the players aren't playing, and then everyone's doing Black Lives Matter things.
Dude, hockey was great. Hockey was great. No masks, except like 2 people on the bench. They started out were skating for Black Lives Matter. They got so much pushback, they took it down after a month. And then it was like normal hockey again with just no fans. It was fantastic. I loved it.
What a bunch of, it's too woke. Cal's right. Sports is just too woke these days.
It really is.
You got girl football players and girl referees, and it's just like, why? Why do that?
Mm-hmm. Oh, I do that.
Nobody
All right,
wants
so
to see
here's
girls
something
playing
that they've been
sports.
pushing: Christian nationalism.
Yeah,
Christian
I'm a Christian
nationalism.
nationalist.
And this is basically them just saying that we can't love our country and we're like kind of commingling Christ with country.
So this is the scam, Matt. Can I open the curtains and show you the scam?
Please do.
This is the scam, Matt. So here's what they do. This is what Big Eva does. They'll say something like Christian nationalism is the biggest threat to the gospel ever. And then you're like, well, how do you define it? And half of them won't define it, but the other half will. And they'll say, well, Christian nationalism is that thing that you do when you think that America has a special relationship with God and is a special servant of God, and God is on the side of America all the time, and you just think that. That's evil. Okay, fine. Let's just give them that. Let's just say that's evil. Okay, so that's what they'll say the definition is. But then they will apply that term to everybody. So you're a Christian nationalist, Matt, because you love the country and you like Trump.
Mm-hmm.
So you're a Christian nationalist. Well, hold on a second. I don't think America's like the special servant of God and no other country is, and all that. Like, so what's all this with I'm the Christian nationalist? And then you're like, well, that's how it works. You see, the definition is super scary, but then they apply it like peanut butter to everybody. And they did the same thing with Trumpism too. Trumpism means you worship Trump, but when they apply it, you're a Trumpist, Matt. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
You're a Trumpist.
Oh.
So that's the thing. So it's like, that's what they mean by Christian nationalism. Basically, anybody that didn't think Trump was the devil is a Christian nationalist.
Gosh, it's so rich because like these are the people that are saying you can vote for Democrats who are expanding government and saying that that's the way that we fulfill loving the poor and doing the things God commanded is via government. So wouldn't it really be more them making this like conflation than us?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Dude, they're the master projectors. It's crazy. These people get so livid about things they're doing themselves. It's so laughable.
Yeah, it is very laughable. They're kings of projection. They do it all the time. And it's what's funny is like, again, like so this is a perfect example. So like when I start talking about Trump the way you talk about the vaccine, then you can tell me I'm a Trumpist. Like, the next inauguration of Trump, it's like the second advent of Christ. We're in the already, but not yet. Trump, it's still Trump's America, but he hasn't been inaugurated yet. And so we're in the already and not yet. The minute I start doing that, you can call me an idolater, just like I called you an idolater for doing it with the vaccine. It's true in your case, but I've never done that. I've never put Trump in the position of the Messiah. I don't do that.
Right. Yeah.
So that's the thing. So they project what they're up to on you.
Yes. Just like every other liberal. Like, there's no difference.
There's no difference.
It's so crazy. Is Beth Moore running for SBC president? Someone asked that.
No, I don't think she is, but I think there's a contingent of people that want her to. And I'm one of them. Mark me down as one of those people. I want Beth Moore to run against Al Mohler. And I want her to win. That would be it. That would be great.
Wow.
I'm sorry, SBC guys, but somebody's going to have to push you out. You're not going out on your own.
No,
You're going to have to. We need somebody in there that'll galvanize you.
Let's develop this a little bit more. Why do you want Beth Moore to be president of the SBC?
Here's why. Because if Beth Moore were the president of the SBC, I think that there would be some major moves made to either leave the SBC or to kick all the pagans out of the SBC. So I think it would be very good for the purity of the church.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't think people would put up with it.
Got it. That's funny. So basically, you want to destroy the SBC. That's what you're saying.
No, I want there to be a pure, stronger SBC.
Ah, got it. Speaking of, did you hear about the Founders Ministry? They launched the Institute of Public Theology.
I sure did.
Did you hear about that? Yeah. So if you guys were interested in finding out more about that, you should go over to the Founders Ministry website.
Yeah. I sent Jared a text message when I saw the announcement. I'm very excited to find about finding out more. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, that'd be great. Vodi Baucham's going to be on there. Tom Nettles. Who else? Oh, and Jared and Tom. I don't know if anyone else has been announced, but that should be promising. That looks
Yeah,
good.
they had some other I think adjuncts that were announced.
Okay.
Dolezal and a few others. But yeah, it looked really interesting. I'm excited about it.
I'm really excited about it, but I'm a little more excited about to see the articles that are going to come to attack it. That's what I'm really looking forward to.
Well, it's the most racist thing to ever happen.
Yes, absolutely.
So I can understand that.
It is Christian nationalism, or what was it? What was that one Australian guy? Neo Christians. I forgot the name of it.
Neo. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
What was the name?
Yeah, Neo Confederates.
Neo Confederates. It's the Neo Confederate Institute of Public Theology.
Well, and did you know, Matt, that they said that Rachel Den Hollander was a demon, a spiritual entity that took human form? Did you know that?
Yeah, I did. You know, I
now they're
remember
starting
something.
The seminary. I mean, look, it's just they're misogynist, they're racist, they're neo-Confederate, they're Christian nationalists and Trumpists. Did you know that Trump retweeted Tom Askell?
He did. Oh,
so
my
he
gosh.
must worship Trump.
He must
obviously.
Worship
We're putting all the pieces together here.
Time for that Always Sunny Matrix meme. I love that one. Or the GIF.
You know what I found interesting about Beth Moore's little situation is that in her little tweet tirade against Christian nationalism. By the way, this is the woman that doesn't understand what critical race theory is. She's never heard a correct definition of it. But somehow she knows what Christian nationalism is, even though nobody knows what that is.
Right.
So anyway, she, in her little tirade, she said, "Fellow leaders, we are held responsible for the people that we lead and teach and essentially taking the role of a shepherd." And Big Eva was all about it. A couple articles came out saying Beth Moore led the way. She sounded the alarm. Yeah, she rallied the troops. I think they're ready to fall behind Beth Moore, man. I think she's ready for her run. This is her time.
Oh man, it's gonna be beautiful to watch. I have to say, I kind of want to see it too. You have me convinced. That'd be great.
Listen. I'm being a little bit silly about that. I honestly, that would be very painful, I think, for a lot of people if Beth Moore ran and won. But here's the thing, guys, I don't get why so many solid people continue to pay into the cooperative fund and all that kind of stuff. I don't understand it. And I think that it would be better if you didn't do that. And I think that a Beth Moore presidency would cause a lot of people to withdraw their funding. I think that would be a good thing in the end. It would be painful in the short term, but in the long term, it'd be a good thing.
Yeah, I think I would actually recommend that too. I would second that and say that you should withdraw at least until they start reining things in. I mean, if Beth Moore ever did become president, in all seriousness, it wouldn't be like the start of the end. It would just be revealing where the SBC has been this whole time.
Yeah,
right?
I completely agree with that. Yeah.
All right. So I just got to give a shout out because this is kind of funny, AD. I don't know if you knew this or not, but I got invited as a pre-mill person to speak at a post-mill conference.
I knew about this. Yes.
Yeah. That's tomorrow, 18th and 19th. It's called A Purchase Victory, a conference on the bright hope of post-millennialism. And there's going to be some great people there. Doug Wilson, Gary DeMar. You got the Arizona crew down there. What's his name? Totally dropping. What's his name?
Jeff Durbin.
Apologia. Jeff Durbin. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tons of other people there. So if you want to hear about post-millennialism and more particularly me talk as a pre-millennialist about post-millennialism, it's going to be a good time. Check it out.
While you're there, you should ask Gary DeMar about the Mark of the Beast. He'll give you all the
I'm going to make a joke about how you normally like having conferences in person, but I'm glad this one is digital, so I don't have to see Gary DeMar as I admit I'm pre-mill.
He's just going to give you that face palm.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I've seen him in person just destroy pre-mill before, and I just shrunk back into the crowd. Wasn't even going to say anything.
I'm not going to even say anything.
I'm going to go. I got to go to the bathroom. So that's the cruciformministries.org if you want to check that out. Looks like it's going to be a good time. A lot of great speakers. Thank you everyone for joining us. Please share the show. Please share it tomorrow when it comes out. Thank you for everyone who's supporting us. And we'll talk. Oh no, we're not going to talk to you next week. It's Christmas Eve next week. So have a Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
And we'll talk to you next year, I think. or whatever the week is after that.
Well, that's right. I think it's the week. Yeah, it's next year. Yeah. Well, God
Yeah,
bless.
it
Well,
is.
thanks for a great 2020.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. And we'll see you next year.
God bless.
God bless.